Hi, and welcome to the Strategic Business Advisor. Today, we're going to talk with Mike Papania. He is the founder and CEO of Coaching for Success, Inc. in Southwest Louisiana. He's a multi-entrepreneur. We'll talk to him right now. Hi, Mike. Welcome to the podcast. Glad you could make it today.
Kerry, thank you very much for inviting me. I've been looking for this for 2 weeks now. So here I am with you again. Wow.
Fantastic, man. Great to see you again. And for anybody who's watching, Mike and I are old friends. We've been knowing each other for what, 30 plus years?
Absolutely. Don't remind me, but that's the truth.
Yeah, we're both getting older. Anyway, so you're what they call a serial entrepreneur. You have a real estate portfolio that you manage. You've had a restaurant that I love, Papania, it's in Lake Charles. You had a clothing store, the Cover Up.
Yeah, the Cover Up.
You do a lot of business coaching. You're involved with education for living seminars, and you have your own Coaching for Success now. So you've worked with a lot of, not only as an entrepreneur, but you've also worked with a lot of entrepreneurs, right?
Yep, that's the
so
truth.
You've seen a lot of, the good, the bad, and the ugly of it all. And especially as a business coach, since it's not you, it's them, it's easy to see when it's them. You've probably seen a lot of what works, what doesn't work, and there's probably some commonality in all that. So I guess my first question would be what's the most common issue you see with business organizations?
The ones that everybody's struggling with is ineffective communication. Top of the list.
Yep.
Department A doesn't know how to speak to Department B. B can't make it to C, and they struggle with it. They don't know how to make a request or anything like that we know about. It changed my whole life when I started doing that in Baton Rouge, and especially when I had my clothing store, because I had live employees and I could go there on the weekend, learn about that or trust or something like that. And I'd bring it back and test drive it in my house. In my business, and it worked. I had some happy people.
Yeah.
I had some happy people. And so that's why I find most of the people. I had an insurance friend in my place, and he says, I just need help communicating to these people. I can see right away that he's not holding them as an equal,
Right.
They're people. I said, well, those people are good things, But that's what I liked. I actually, what happened was I kind of was overwhelmed, and I was doing a lot of stuff you were talking about. And so in 1999, I liquidated my clothing store. I sold my restaurant. And in January of 2000, I was unemployed. And I said, what do I love, Mike? What do I love? I said, oh, I love coaching. So I took a shot at it. So in January of 2000, I had to have binders and books and things and find me an office. And I started off in January of 21 under Coaching for Success. And I'm still here, and I'm glad. But I've had lots of different types of customers and stuff like that over the years.
Yeah, you've dealt with some regional businesses, and I don't want to disclose any of them for you, but I know you've played with some, you've worked with some pretty big players.
Can I speak about one or two or something? Sure, like that?
Of course.
Yeah, one of them that was really touching my heart. It was this home furniture. Here I am in Lake Charles, where there's a location, and they had 13 stores from Baton Rouge to Beaumont or something like that,
Wow.
And so when they they interviewed me, and then so, okay, we'll try out your program. And so I had a group of that. Anyway, they put 110 people through my class in 1 year.
Wow.
They just ate it up. Then I fell into Stoller Jewelry, big thing in Baton Rouge. And I got the human resource director to come to be in my class and see if he liked it or not. And then he brought the boss by, and then my stay there was for 4.5 consecutive years. Every Thursday morning, I drove to Lafayette and taught classes.
Wow.
They had 1,200 employees, and we ended up putting 970 people through the class.
Well, I think that's pretty good testament that they were satisfied with the results.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm now still doing one for right now in Lafayette. I was there Tuesday for home furniture again. They're getting their new people going through. And the head guy says, you know, you might as well come every other month, you know, because they're just getting results and that's so much fun. So it makes me happy that it's helping out other people and helping their company. And they're just great people. So I've worked
Man,
with McDonald's before and stuff and other
yeah,
companies.
that's
So
fantastic, Mike. So can you tell us, like, in a nutshell, I know it's going to be kind of hard, but in a nutshell, what does your class offer to these businesses employees that they're running so many of their employees through it?
okay, well, the deal is, the first thing I start off with is effective communication. And you know, the speech act theory, and that's what I do, the language acts. And I start off speaking about like their paradigms. And the first thing I talk about is being a coach. What is a coach? He's an observer of somebody else. You know, we have a
Right.
baseball coach, you know, so so we're not good observers ourselves. And I think the more each one of us becomes more self-aware, when I see something I hadn't seen before about Mike on my own,
Right.
that's a big deal. So I kind of set it up that way to roll into that. And I have a 4-part program. You can do it every other week or something like that. And so paradigms, God, when I went to Stephen Covey on that in that book, The 7 Habits,
Right.
that's the first thing he does in the chapter. I just kind of borrowed it from him, because I knew what he was talking about. I said, yeah, I got to put it up there. And then the speech act theory is finished in part 1 and part 2. So I finished a part 2 today here in Lake Charles, and we're going to go on with it. The third point I broke it up into was trust and emotional intelligence. I'm going, oh my God, trust. You've got to hear me. I mean, I'm serious about this. I love it so much that people see I love it. When I'm talking to them, like a Kiwanis Club, a lunch and learn or something, they just eat it up. They said, so when you know the 3 points that we take care of and all that kind of stuff. Emotional intelligence, I'm just telling people, how much do you know about your moods and emotions? You can't have all those bad moods coming into your apartment, into your business every day.
Right.
Your moods and your emotions are so important. And I just kind of soften it and let them kind of walk through it with me, because, we grow up in a historical thing saying moods and emotions are a sign of weakness. And that's why we bury those things, because, well, I can, we don't want to do that. So that can open your eyes so much,
Right.
oh my gosh, our historical discourse it's a sign of weakness. Everyone knows that answer when I talk to them. Say, fill in the blank. And so that part is moods and emotions. These are the hard parts. It's not the soft people skills like you think it is, because they don't know how to approach it. And so after that, and then I have the last part, not least, but I talk about listening. And I also talked at that time about problem solving using the ontology, breakdown on ontology. Is that right?
Yeah.
Did I say it right? No.
Ontology breakdown.
Yeah. So with that, that's why I close it, and like everybody has breakdowns. So this is what we need to do when we're in them. Don't stay there.
Right.
Don't stay there. Just jump out of there. So broadly, I think it's the part of, I'm in the education business. I'm teaching people, I'm learning companies that after they can do it with themselves. Like, you don't need me anymore, basically.
Right.
But you need the tools to get there. And I think that's what I have, so.
Cool. Okay, great. Yeah, you brought up something that there's a lot of, what's the word I want to hear? The misconception of what is effective communication. There's a lot of people, well, I told you, didn't I?
Right.
And then something goes wrong, and that's the thing. Something goes wrong. It's like, well, I told you, didn't I? Well, you said something. I don't know what.
Yeah, you said something.
Anyway, so can you give us a little distinction on what is effective versus, or what are some of the misconceptions about what is effective communication?
What is effective is what we were putting out in front. We have to first keep our promises to people. Secondly, we have to probably have something like to make it more effective would be how to make an effective request. I was in 1987, I was in Baton Rouge for the first time, and I was 37 years old. And I realized in that moment, I had never made an effective request in my life. And I thought I was doing good.
Right.
And so that's very important. The way we make offers to people, sometimes we end up suffering from it because, you know, why did I offer them to help me, you know, when I know I have all this other work to do? They shouldn't have done that to me. You know, it's those language acts that are, language is the key. That, I mean, that's just it. And the last thing is declarations. Everything starts with declarations. I declared coaching for success into existence.
Right.
There was no coaching for success until Mike Papania says, you know, I have the authority, coaching for success.
The same could be said about the United States of America. At some
Yeah.
point, it was declared into existence, right? Declaration
Yeah.
of Independence.
Exactly. That's exactly. There's no difference. Exactly. It could be a little coaching for success in Lake Charles, or it could be for the United States of America. When you speak, you reveal. When you speak, you reveal.
Yep.
And if you declare something into existence, and we all know people like that. You were in elementary school or something, say the 8th and 9th grade or something, and your best friend came up to me and says, "When I grow up, I'm gonna be a doctor." And I go, "Okay, yeah, you're gonna be a doctor." And guess what? He's a doctor. I went to school with him.
Right.
That's what you know. So he first said, "What? I'm going to be a doctor." I'm thinking, you're just not that smart. I remember, you know, you were on the football
anyway.
field. Yeah. Anyways. So, but that's me being judgmental right there.
Yeah.
But I think it's really the key is it's a coordination of action when everybody gets on. Like if everybody in your department knows how to make the effective request, you're in good shape. If you don't know how to make it, you're going to be struggling.
Can you give us a quick breakdown of what is an effective request? What are the elements of an effective request?
Yeah, the first thing we always look for is the the committed speaker. The second one is a committed listener. So like if you have a son and you say, "Go clean the room," he goes, "Okay, Dad." That wasn't too effective. You know. And then then we move into a time zone. Sometimes we say, like, "I need this report," and you give it to your secretary. She doesn't know what to do with it. Does he like want yellow paper? Does he want me to have, 3-hole punch in it? You left out everything. Just do this report. And then the last part is standards. Boy, you have different standards of your son cleaning a yard, huh? Or somebody making a bed. Like those four. Now the big daddy in that, you ready? That you asked it, is that there's 4 keys to all that, but there's an umbrella on top. You know what that umbrella is? It's your mood. And what mood do you make your request?
Right.
That's like, I don't know how else to say it. That's valuable. If you can manage your mood and make a request, hallelujah.
Yeah, and you're not talking about like being moody. Some people are going to say
no,
and they're going to think moody, and you got to emote a whole bunch. What kind of moods are you talking about? Compare and contrast. Like, what's an effective mood? What's not an effective mood?
Well, you know that already.
Well, I know, but I'm asking you to say it so you can tell the audience.
Well, okay. Pessimism and optimism. How about those moods? That's about the easiest you can get. Moods. Yeah, the guy's up there and you say, I say, "Oh, it's a beautiful day today." And the guy goes, "Well, I heard it's going to rain tomorrow." And it, you just can't, that's how funny it is.
Yeah.
Just what mood do you make your request in?
Right.
That's the key thing right there. Cause like you can, why did he come in here? I don't like him because he comes in here in a bad mood, yelling at me, and then he goes away. How can I work with people like that? Like, and he doesn't see that he's doing that. That's the other part.
Right. And so if you come in a quote, a bad mood or an ineffective mood or negative mood, and even if it's made an effective request, the person you're speaking to is going to have a very hard time listening to what you're saying, because all they're going to be dealing with is your mood.
That's right.
Right.
Like all they could do is hear your mood is really what it is.
Right. Yeah. And what comes out of the mood is, you're wrong, you're stupid, you're going to screw this up again. I don't even know I'm bothering to ask you. I mean, you don't say those words, but that's the experience people have. If you come in, it's like, this is what I want you to do, and this is why I want you to do it, and I want it done by this time, and you better have everything right, and that kind of a request. You can say specifically what you want and by a time, exactly how you want it, but if you say it in that kind of an accusatory tone, what people are going to get for it is, he thinks I'm stupid, he knows he thinks I'm going to screw it up. Why even try? No matter what I do, it's going to be wrong.
Yeah, it's kind of funny in a way that you're like, that's what you're seeing right there. And that's what holds up everything. And know what to do. You hand it to your secretary and you're in a bad mood. She puts your piece under at the bottom. Okay. That's how they get even.
They'll get back. Yeah. They'll get back.
So I have a lot of fun in my class. I hate to say it that way, but like I took it not being serious as I used to, right. I'm kind of more playful, and I think I get a different breeze from the people in the room, because that allows them to do that. So if I'm going into like a perfection person, they have to do it every day. You have to do it this way. What was that coach's name out there in California? Roger.
Well, it was Roger Galvin. It was East Coast, and it was West Coast Roger.
I can see his face. I can't remember.
I know.
That was only 30 years ago, huh?
Yeah.
But what he told me one time?
Huh?
One-on-one. But no, this is what he told me one time, one-on-one. Mike, I never teach my class the same way. He says, because that means you have to learn that way. He was saying, like, does that make sense?
Wait, say again?
Well, he's telling me never have your class the same way you did last week. He says, because you have to allow the participants to express and then coach into that. And it'll be different every week. If you teach nurses, the doctors, I've taught, Pompelli Tire Company in Lake Charles, I love them to death. I have if they want to go in sales, they have to come take my class.
Wow.
That's a given. That's just a given. Boom.
Yeah.
So they come in as they do, and he called me back this month. Last week I was in his office again. He said, we need to add some more stuff to your stuff. I said, well, let's talk. We can invent something here,
Yeah.
So it's been good. So I think that's a lot right there. I just said those language acts, but nothing can top the moods.
Yeah. Yeah. Mood is what, as they say, arrives before you do.
It moves. That's exactly right. Yes. Right. You learned something. I remember.
No. I got a few things out of classes. Yeah.
But really, that's what's happening. I know I don't know how much time I have, and you can cut this part out. But I began to understand that safety is big for organizations. And what happens, it opens up the possibility of somebody being injured, is that they're coming to work in a bad mood.
Yeah.
And this was true for me in Lafayette. I was with an oil company, and I was there on say Wednesday morning, and I was about ready to open the doors, and this guy was coming down the hall, and he slammed the doors open, glass doors open, kind of pushed me out of the way, jumped in his truck, started peeling out the gravel in the parking lot, and headed north on 49 in Lafayette.
Wow.
I said, oh my God, he's going to kill somebody. That's, like he's in a bad mood, and he's going to not be focused on the other cars and things.
Yeah. And your mood possesses you.
Yeah, that's it. So if a guy's going through a divorce and he's taking that bad mood from the ex-wife, and he goes, "Oops, I just cut my finger," you know.
Oop, I just got in a fatal wreck, killed
Yeah.
somebody. Yeah, stuff like that.
But those are, I think their safety can be put by moods too, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's something I've thought about for years, and I really haven't approached it. But every time I start thinking about this one, I was afraid when he was coming out the doors. You know, he could have
right.
knocked me down and so forth. And I said, "Well, I think he just got fired," is what happened.
Ah,
You know, and he was in a bad mood. And he first opened on the doors, and then on Mike, and then the poor truck was just. So anyway,
right. No, but you know, this whole thing about safety and mood affecting safety, I think you definitely onto something, because I have a client that has a safety company. And one of the big things with safety is awareness. You have to be aware of your surroundings, of what's going on. You know, you have to be aware of the rules, of all the checklists and all the
do all
stuff
that
they do with
stuff.
safety. If you're in the wrong mood, you're not going to pay attention to any of that stuff.
That's right.
You're going to be absorbed by the mood. You're going to be absorbed by all the conversations that have the mood, when the mood has you, and you're going to miss a lot.
You miss a lot of it. That's like, you know, so
you know, you're going to go grab some live wire and shock yourself to death, or miss something and start it on fire, or do something else silly, and somebody else is going to get hurt.
And you turn the wrong valve and it blows up. Yeah, you don't want that too much.
Yeah, you need
because they weren't paying attention.
You need to be in a good mood in dangerous situations. Absolutely.
So yeah, it's just so that kind of stuff is you know, everybody needs to see it, you know.
Yeah.
If you ask somebody else to make the 4 or 5 effect, how do you make it with these 5 events? They wouldn't know how until they learned how to do it. And it's all simple stuff. I mean, you know, yeah, it's like you got to take that fish out for a little while and see what this brings, and then we can push fish down there again, because it's just part of that.
Yeah. So the 5 speech acts, excuse me, as I remember, there's assertions, there's declarations, and there's a special form of declaration with assessments. And then the last 3 speech acts are all about designing the future, which are request, offers, and promises. Yes. If you can master those 5 along with moods, and again, moods have conversations along with emotions. Those are emotions are more short-term assessments about your circumstance, where moods are more, I guess, comprehensive, longer term, bigger picture assessments of your situation. So if you can get a handle on all that, and again, it's simple, but it's not easy, because especially if you've been doing it a while, not paying attention to all that.
Yes.
It's going to have you. You're not going to see what. It's hard for you to listen to it because it's there so much. It's been there for so long. It's hard for you to hear a lot of the content overriding, whatever you want to call it, especially the really sincere, those beliefs that you hold so dear and close as the truth. Those are the ones that are going to produce all kinds of conversations. And again, my experience has been when there's some suffering going on, there's some breakdown, if you can trace it back, you can always trace it back to language, and generally trace back to some, you know, ultimate truth that somebody has about themselves, the world, whatever, how they've been treated. And it's being able to reflect on those things, you know, being able to, as Julio Olala, one of our coaches, used to say, reflection is original sin, because then you can take those absolute truths and actually learn to reflect and question if they're valid or not. And for some people, that's really hard. Born again Christians, you know, the question of was Christ real would be very hard for them to examine. And again, I'm not trying to get religious here, but without trying to get too political, you know, to be able to examine some of your basic beliefs, some of those really hardwired, and again, I say hardwired, but because you've been programmed from birth to now, and you've been listening to it over and over again, it's so much there that it's not even, it's not seen as a thought, it's not seen as a conversation, it's just seen as reality or the truth.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of my experience has been, that's where most people's suffering comes from.
Yeah. And Carrie, I'm going to go one step further. This is what we're talking about is what is your paradigm? And I have the definition for myself. It's a way of thinking, believing and behaving, and you've been doing it for so long, you think you have the truth.
Yeah.
And hence you get stuck in your paradigm. Well, we've been doing it this way for 20 years. Why change?
Yeah.
It ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right. Well, and again, a lot of times when people claim, oh yeah, we thought about it, we're thinking about it, we think about it a lot. A lot of times thinking requires questioning. In other words, you have to ask, to have real thinking, you have to be able to ask questions. You have to not know. Because if you know everything already, what is that to learn, right?
Nothing.
Most people have thoughts, they're not thinking.
Okay.
They just have the same thoughts over and again. They call that thinking. It's not. It's just, you're just playing a tape over and over again and just reinforcing what you think you already know, but you're not learning anything. Thinking is learning.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah, everything. God, the educational part is everything.
Yeah.
It's just really new learning.
Yeah.
Big statement. You have to learn something new.
Yeah.
What do we call it when we keep doing the old things over and over again? You think
insanity.
different? Yeah.
Einstein called it insanity. Expecting different results.
I just have to sneak that one in a little bit, because that's what it's really, when you stand back and look and you keep yelling at your son and yell at your son, you yell at your son, and then the dad says, I wonder what's wrong with our son. Well, that's not the son, it's the dad.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like the attitude of some business owners. The beatings will continue until the morale improves.
Oh, we human beings, we're just so funny. I'm telling you, you have to kind of love us,
Yeah, it's funny. Okay, so I'll get back to one of our questions.
Okay.
Here's another thing that I see people have a hard time distinguishing between hearing and listening. They think it's the same thing. And my experience is that they're very different. I mean, they're connected, but they're different. Just being hearing and learning. Can you give us a distinction? What's the difference?
Well, yeah, this is one of my challengings too, to become everybody wants to be a better listener. And it's a real challenge. I found very few tales about this one, but what I can say is hearing is biological. My dog can hear me. Okay.
Right.
But if we add interpretations, we go back to listening. That's one of my picks ups, Yeah. So one's biological, but listening is about interpretations. It came from it was the engineers and the transmitters and receivers. And they, that's the model for all that. And so if I'm speaking, then you're the listener, right? And what do we do? Like the machinery stuff just duplicates it, huh?
Right.
But we human beings do something a little different. When we're going from one to the other, we are adding our interpretations. So machines don't have interpretations.
Right. They just, whatever hits. So
yeah, that's right.
A different way I've heard that, that was a great distinction, by the way, but a different way I've heard what you just said described as listening is active. It's action because of the interpretation, because you're giving your interpretation, it's active, it's not passive. And most people see listening as passive. Well, I heard what you said. Yeah, but you didn't listen to, you didn't get any of it. Yeah, you heard the words, but you didn't listen.
They don't have the same interpretation you do.
Right.
That's why
which is why perspective, or as you say, your paradigm is so important. And again, the older I get, the more I see that your perspective is your reality.
So let me give you a good piece here.
Please.
Okay. So where do our interpretations come from? They come from
what we think we already know, usually. Yeah.
Yeah, it comes from your beliefs.
Right.
That's where you get it from. Another place you get your piece is your emotions and your moods. So when you speak, your words are going this way. There's nothing I can do about them. They're gone. But you add your interpretations, your beliefs, your moods and emotions, and then you speak back to me with that. So it's your interpretation that yeah, you're, you go from beliefs, emotions, and the moods.
Yeah.
That's where you're pulling in your interpretations. Those are your interpretations.
Right.
And
So again, you're listening, or the interpretation you give to it, again, from a business perspective, you can have all kinds of chaos if you have people listening from different perspectives. So, you know, how do you what's the word I look for? How do you work
I
with
don't know.
that? How do you work with
Well,
that?
that's a puzzle. I think then you have to go back and say, you say you're listening to that, or you receive it, so to speak. Then you have to say, which one's more effective in there or less effective, so to speak. It'd be like your emotions, what emotion you were in. So you have to kind of go back up to there. You know, I draw a little a rainbow kind of thing that put that emotions, moods, and beliefs. And
Right.
it goes through all of those three from here. And I'm listening already. You see, you spoke them, and then I'm listening back here. And if I don't have a good mood right now, I won't listen to the thing.
Right.
So it's challenging.
So to some extent, do you have to, if you want to be effective at communication, if you want to be listened to well, you have to take some amount of responsibility for who you're speaking to. In other words, you have to be able to listen to their listening and speaking to that, rather than maybe deliver it the way you're most comfortable with.
Yeah. And I think what I would say in my term that I kind of made up, so to speak, I need to get down on that person's level.
Right.
I don't, a scientist doesn't address something that an attorney does. Are you on the same level as the person that just spoke? That's big for me. That's big for me. So you may or may not use this in your work here, but I need to say this because I felt so good when I realized, Jesus talked in parables.
Right.
He was talking to fishermen and taxmen, and so, and he had to get down to their level to have that listening piece that we need.
So he was, said a different way, Jesus is speaking into their listening, into the listening of the people he was talking to, by using, what do you want to call it? Some form of communication that they could relate to with the parables.
Right.
Rather than just coming out and saying, no, this is the way it is.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
that makes sense.
And it's also in another way that we covered, and it's we don't have the same distinctions that other people have.
Right.
Like a distinction is like I say, look at the floor, and you look at the floor. I say, look at the ceiling, you look at the ceiling. We have distinctions in our community. I'm sitting in a chair, another one, and that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, well, here's a different way of looking at it.
Okay.
You wouldn't talk to one of your children the way you would talk to one of your parents.
Okay.
You wouldn't talk to your boss the same way you talk to a subordinate or, say, a coworker. Right. You wouldn't talk to your spouse the way you would talk to a total stranger. All those are different. And again, the relationships are different, and there's some background of obviousness that each may have and all that stuff. And they're different. You have different concerns for whom you're speaking to depending on who you're talking to. And again, my learning was that you have some responsibility about speaking into the listening that you perceive the other person. In other words, you have to speak into what's going on in their head. You can't talk to a teenager as though they were like a 50-year-old. They're not going to hear you. No, they're just not.
And they don't have the same distinctions.
Well, they have the same distinctions, and they're listening to a totally different conversation than, say, somebody who's married, 50-something years old, has grown kids, successful business. Very different internal monologue compared to, say, a teenager who's worried about looking good, being cool, having a boyfriend, girlfriend, latest music, whatever video games. What do they listen to these days? I'm so in touch with
No,
that.
no, me
I have
too.
no
But
idea.
hey, Lordy, those
Okay.
TV.
So again, if you could talk to whatever business owner is looking in here, what would you say is the most effective action they could take for their business? I don't know, not necessarily this instant, but out of our conversation, out of what they've heard you say, what's the most effective action they could take out of all that for their business?
Trust,
Say again?
trust. This is
Trust.
the biggest. It's the monster.
Trust what though? Are you saying they should trust their employees blindly?
Have a company that trusts.
How do you get to that?
You get the three components of trust, which if you like to have them, I can give them to you, and build that way, because it is a masterpiece. Our relationships are based on trust.
Right.
You know, I don't care which way it is. You know, I promised to take my son fishing and I didn't do it, and he's upset with me. Well, he has a right to. I didn't keep a promise.
Right.
So keeping promises is a big part for trust. That's one of them. So the ones we really have are sincerity is one of the components.
Right.
That might be the biggest one too.
Well, it's the one that most people rely on pretty much exclusively. I feel like I can trust you.
Yeah, I feel like I can trust you. But once they smell the insincerity, it's over in sales, done.
Right.
We don't trust people that are insincere.
Yeah.
So that's the big
hard
one.
to trust liars.
It is. Yeah.
Especially if you can, they're lying.
They're lying.
They're lying. In your head, you're going, they're lying. They're obviously lying.
That's right. That's right.
This is bullshit.
And you can tell that. And once you smell that insincerity, you'll say, I think we'll just walk over and see another dealership, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I gotta go.
Yeah, I gotta go.
I gotta go.
Yeah.
Okay. So sincerity is a big component of trust. What are you said there were three?
Yeah. Competency, being competent.
Ah.
Is the person working on my car competent?
Can they do what they say they can do?
Yeah. That's again competency. I don't think.
How do you assess competency?
Well, you can ask about that. How long have you worked? How long have you this? What's your comments about that? And it's just, but like the way I sometimes say it in my office or my business is that it's like my teenage son comes in and says, hey, Dad, can I take your car tonight and I'll go out with the boys and we're gonna have a fun time, and is that okay? I said, well, I can't trust you. I said, what? Well, Dad, you don't love me either? I said, I didn't say that. I said, I didn't trust you. He said, why'd you say that? I said, well, because you got your driver's license last week and your mom had an automatic that she started, an automatic drive, and my truck is as a standard, and you're going to kill yourself.
Right. You're
not competent to drive my truck.
Right.
So you have to really measure that competency, but you can spell that out. You wouldn't do it to but sometimes we get even those things, like I use the word love. You don't love me anymore. That's for the, oh, you don't trust me, don't love me. Well, that's the same thing. We're not going there.
So some other ways you can determine competencies, maybe somebody's certifications, qualifications, educational background, that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
It's one of the best ways I've found to find out who's really good at something. If you want to find a good restaurant or a good doctor, is ask other people. If you're really good, other people will talk kindly of you.
Yeah.
It's to me anyway, it's another indicator of they're really competent. They're really good. If somebody's going, oh man, at this restaurant over there, Papania's restaurant, you want Italian, that's a place to go to in Lake Charles.
Right.
So
coming back to that on competency, I have a thought that I really wanted to say that let me go to the next one. Part three might sound better. Okay, sure. So I'm doing three to say this one. The last one is reliability. which is our history of making and keeping promises. Not you broke one promise. What is your whole history about coming in the teenager? Like Dad, I came in right on time. I said, yeah, that was one time. How about the second time, the third time, the fourth time? You know, so it's the reliability, is the history of making and keeping promises. And that's pretty good. With those three, you're going to be in good luck. And you can read that.
Sincerity, competence, and reliability.
Right.
Okay.
And with that, I'm keeping, there's one more thing I want to add to that competency thing. Well, I'm gonna take a blank on that one right there.
That's
so
cool.
Those three.
If you think about it, feel free to bring it up. They can edit it in.
Yeah, because the competency is just, yeah, can you do it? I mean, that's really
Yeah. Can you do what you say?
Can you do what you say? Yeah, basically. So you got three things to look at right there. And oh, I know what it is.
What?
You can interview somebody and they can be sincere and they can be reliable in that. But you, the owner, might need to be the competency, like send him back to school. Like nurses do that. They send them back to nursing school. So their competency, then then now we can trust them to be in the surgery room. Are you hearing me with that one?
Yeah.
And I love that because it makes so much sense that you, the owner of the business, needs to, if you want your business to grow, you better make them more competent. You better send them back to school or something like that. I know nurses who do that all the time. You know, that's one of the things they have to do. They have to go back and get those units, what are they called? Or they won't be certified again.
Continuing ed units, yeah.
Yeah.
CEUs.
So
yeah, that's so like maintaining and actually improving your competency.
Yeah, and so he may come without on the guy going into your business, being hired by you, and he may not be trained enough, and then he breaks some machinery or something, and you yell at him. Maybe you needed to send him to that school to learn how to handle that machine,
right,
before he uses it. So the person may not be able to bring the competency there, but you can certainly promote him into that.
Yeah, train him up.
Train him up.
Yeah.
Train him up. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's it. So.
Okay, let's see. Other questions. So building an organization that how do you want to say that? Do you want to build an organization that has trust as part of its core principles, or how would you say that, Mike?
Well, maybe at first I would go get me a coach.
Well, yeah.
Okay. I mean, like where am I going with this one? Like, you know, but that again, that's what we're saying. A coach would like, hey, I go, Carrie, I know you've been a CPA for 20 years and I've just got my degree to be a CPA. Can you schedule me some work hours for you or something like that? You know, you need to kind of get in there and walk with them on that. So
you're saying a business owner should get a coach to help them build an organization that has respect as a core value or a core competency?
Oh, respect is very important. Yeah. Yeah, but it's
I'm sorry. What I meant to say was trust.
Trust.
You brought up trust. You said the biggest thing you would tell a business owner to do would be to build an organization that trust.
That's trust.
So are you saying they should get a coach to help them do that?
If necessary, yes.
I would think in most cases, yes.
Yeah.
My experience of entrepreneurs is they're wonderful at being idea people and seeing opportunity, whether people see risks, they're willing to take chances, they take action, and they're impatient. They tend to be a little bit intolerant. They don't understand why the rest of the world doesn't see what they see. They don't get it. They don't get why people don't want to, that people aren't as committed to them or as passionate as them. But and what they don't get is people don't see what the entrepreneur says.
Right.
And for that reason, the skill set that makes you a wonderful entrepreneur make you a horrible manager, will probably make you a horrible coach. They don't listen very well. So again, nothing against entrepreneurs. I think entrepreneurs are wonderful. And the reason there's so few of them, that so few people actually start businesses, because so few people have that entrepreneurial conversation, mindset, whatever you want to call it, that they're not willing to go out. Most people aren't willing to take the risk that the average entrepreneur takes. So with that, the average entrepreneur doesn't have the patience to be a coach. A coach has to be very patient. And the entrepreneur typically sees the world they miss a lot of things, because, your perspective will have you see things, will also blind you to certain things. And the thing I've seen entrepreneurs do is they tend to dismiss everybody who doesn't, or most people who don't share their perspective, especially people who are risk averse. And that's dangerous, because, if somebody's risk averse and then they tell you about a danger and you don't, it's nothing, why you bother me with that? And I've seen that so many times. And it's a lot of times they're correct. Now, I saw one entrepreneur, he had a business, he had flood insurance, right? He had like $1 million flood insurance that was actually required by the bank. And he saw it as like a waste of money, and that's just not going to happen. When it doesn't flood here, we've seen all kind of rains. It flooded 1983 here in Baton Rouge. This place didn't even get close to wet. Well, he cancels the flood insurance against the banks, against his covenant, 2 months before the flood of August of 2016. His business took on 4 feet of water. No flood insurance policy. So again, it's because he was unwilling to listen to other perspectives, and the other thing, I guess it kind of goes back to leadership. What I've seen, and I don't know if you're a fan of Simon Sinek.
Oh, a little bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard him. Jeff knows more about him.
He does a thing where he said, where leaders generally speak last. Because if a leader says, this is the problem, this is what I think we need to do, whatever, what do you think? Well, you just shut up most of the room. Most of the room is not going to go and say, well, I think something different. If they've already said, this is where I think we ought to solve it. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Say, what do y'all think? How do y'all think we should solve it? Let everybody else give the input, take it all in. Because they might have some brilliant ideas, so yeah, I don't see entrepreneurs being that great of, and I'm sure there's exceptions to the rule. And for the typical entrepreneur out there, no, don't try and coach your people. You're going to do a bad job. What they're going to come away from is, you're wrong, you're stupid, you're slow, you're ineffective. You don't get it like I get it. That's what they're going to, you're not going to say those words, but that's what they're going to listen. That's what they're going to hear.
That's a good, yeah, that's great too, so. Yeah, so we have to go back and say, what is there I can now learn that will help me be a better business tomorrow?
Right.
That's what we're looking for. There's something here, and it might be different for each one, but I kind of say for my own life, I want to learn something today to be more effective and peaceful tomorrow. And so that's how I kind of talk myself into things, Yeah, and I think it's been a very helpful. Like, what can I learn today that'll help me be effective and be peaceful at the same time?
Right.
And it's taken me a long way, because I just say it out loud and speak it and do it. And I'm looking for effectiveness to make me have the peace I want in my life.
Right.
So there's a whole bunch of stuff out there, it is a whole bunch of people out there. So
what you're talking about, to me, one of the big things that will make entrepreneurs more effective is being open to not knowing. Because
that would be a good way to say it. Yeah.
A lot of these guys and gals, for them to be able to take the risk of them to be willing to actually jump off a cliff and start flapping their arms and grow wings, they have to be very confident, right? It takes a lot of confidence. So a lot of times they know that they know, and you can't tell them anything different, which leaves them blind to potential risks they don't see, which they can crash and burn on. Right. And again, most of them know the successful ones have learned how to navigate around roadblocks, breakdowns, whatever. Pretty much whatever you throw in front of them, they'll get around it. But every now and then, you're going to jump off a cliff. That's going to be some fatal trap. and you're not going to survive it. The business is not going to survive it. But yeah, being open to what I don't see here and what's possible, being able to take in different perspectives, to me would make entrepreneurs more effective. And for most entrepreneurs, that's painful because they have to be patient. They can't move as fast as they want. They can't just like snap decisions and start taking action, start telling everybody what to do, making it happen. And again, what happens is a lot of times, because they don't see certain dangers, they don't see certain risks, those things pop up, screw up their plans. They got to navigate, and they stay frustrated a lot. Why isn't this going faster? Because you didn't plan well.
Yeah.
You didn't take in all the perspectives and lay out an effective strategy. But that's a whole nother conversation.
That could be. Yeah.
Anyway, well, man, listen, I'm glad you're doing well. You're still doing your classes, enjoying life. So I'm gonna go to the last bit before I ask you to talk about how you help people and how they can get in touch with you. There's this thing I call underrated, overrated. So I'm gonna have five, I guess, ideas here, and I finish with the last question. So I'm gonna say something. You tell me you think it's overrated or underrated, and you can tell me why if you'd like. Okay, Italian food, is it underrated or overrated?
No, it's under.
Italian food is underrated?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think so too. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
There's a lot of misconceptions about living in Louisiana, especially South Louisiana. So I'm going to ask you, South Louisiana lifestyle, is that underrated or overrated?
I think still underrated. There's a lot of things here.
Yeah, I think my experience, very much underrated. Mardi Gras, is that underrated or overrated?
I'm not a real believer of it, but it's every year at my building, where on Rhine Street, I open it up for Mardi Gras. There's so much wait. It's getting so places. You have to have policemen on the grounds. You watch the kids. Be careful. So I'm kind of holding back on that.
Okay. And finally, technology, modern technology, Zoom meetings.
Zoom meetings, I'm impressed, but I'm not doing the time and practice to stay up with it.
Yeah.
It just seems overwhelming some days, and so forth. So,
yeah.
But that's why.
But in general, technology, would you say it's overrated or underrated?
I don't really think it's overrated. It's hard for me to answer the question because I usually don't pay attention to all that. But
okay. That's fine.
I think overrated because it's the personalities are not. I can't see your eyes and your face and the way you sit in your chairs and stuff like that, and it's kind of sad not being in the room. You might be there with the one owner, and the other people are in 16 houses in Baton Rouge, zooming in on us, and you can't see them face to face.
Yeah,
I don't know if we're in the right direction on that.
Right. Yeah, there's something lost in translation.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and the last question I have was: you rather be smart or lucky?
Can I pick neither or what?
Well, yeah, you can say neither, or you have a third choice.
And I have to be, say it again for me, Dan?
Yeah, would you rather be smart or lucky?
I'd rather be Mike.
Yeah, I'd rather be Mike. That's a Mike answer. Perfect. That's great. So listen, Mike, thank you for being on the podcast today. How do you help people, and how do they get in touch with you?
Well, referrals have been a big deal for me. I mean, people here in Lake Charles, they hear about me and I can go do their place. And was kind of hoping, like, I had a dear friend of mine and he has a franchise here for We Buy Ugly Houses. And every employee he gets, he brings them to my place. So he's been to my class about 7 years, and he comes in with his people, and they're learning together. They look at each other, and they kind of make fun of each other. So we kind of make it playful. So I'll say referral is kind of like my best thing right there.
Right. But how do you help people?
How do I help people?
Yeah.
My class has changed people's lives. Example, right before the virus, he's still a young man. He was been managing at Citgo in a department, and he had 25 years as a manager over this people. So Citgo was sending me people. I didn't call them, they sent me people. They always told me the truth. They said, we're sending you the hard ones. We don't know what to do with them. You know, I said,
Thanks.
I said they were picking and choosing, sending them. I said, oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, you know. But what happened in one of them, you know, a year ago, this guy, young man, he comes in and we have a U-shaped tables, and he just sat back like this for the whole class. The next week when we got into part 2, he kind of leaned forward. In part 3, I couldn't shut his mouth, you know. And he actually told me, he says, I've been using your tools at work. I said, well, thanks, Chris. I think it was Chris. And he says, all of it's working. I said, come on, tell me some more. He said, well, we had this monthly meeting that usually takes an hour and a half that no one wants to go to anyway. He said, I did everything that you talked about in this class, and we finished it in 30 minutes.
Wow.
So he said, and then his assistant, he then sent him the next month to me. So he got the 2 people, both of them kind of coming together. So those kind of things, those are game changers for me. You know, they hear that. I had a lady one time, she was moving back from Georgia. I'll have to cut this real fast. But she was moving back. She was from Lake Charles, but she was moving back, and her best friend was telling her to come to my class. She wasn't even employed yet. Said, you need to come to my class. And she, all right, so she shut up and we came to my class. And it was about the same thing after the second one. The third one, I did the 4 moods of life, 4 moods of life, basic moods of life. And what the story ended up was this. The next week I had to ask her, why were you smiling in my room last week, Thursday, on the 3rd group? He goes, well, the truth is this. My husband committed suicide 2 months ago.
Wow.
I was living with my 2 daughters, couldn't take care of them. And so I moved back to Lake Charles. And she said, when she saw how to get out of resentment is through forgiveness, she said, that's what changed my life.
Wow.
So I get some pretty personal things because I kind of mix it up the same way, but those kind of things, I call them my cookies. I get to go home and I've got a cookie, you know, but those are coming from a housewife being in my class to a manager of 25 years at Citgo, Calcasieu Parish Police Jury. They love me. Just wherever it seems I can go, I just do it. Home furniture, you know.
Yeah. So basically you hold classes on effective language and effective communications for people that they can actually use in business, huh?
Yeah. It's like a 2 for free. I'm telling you, it's like it works at home and it works at work. Trust at home or trust at work. They're the same phenomena. And
Right.
they end up probably using them more at home. And then they're thanking me for that, you know,
Right.
because they would not have seen that. She would not have seen the word forgiveness on the board. You know, it just wouldn't have happened. So I do one-on-one. Some people don't like to come to groups, and they schedule with me. I can do one-on-one with the same.
Some one-on-one coaching.
Yeah, just like that. Just if they want to go sit with me and go through all these pages I've just done, that's what I can do. That I think I like also flexible, because I was told that Mondays and Fridays no nurses can leave the hospital, to come to class. And I can do a night class from 5 o'clock to 8:30 in the evenings for people who don't really do that. I know there's some bunch of people here in Lake Charles want me to start teaching their teenagers again. I did that for 18 years in Baton Rouge.
Right. The teen course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably more, what's the word? Probably more necessary. I don't know what you want to call it.
No. Well, it's those kids became so close to my heart. They were just so dynamic.
Yeah.
And they had their stories and they had their faults and everything else.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have a bunch of stories about that. They said things to me they wouldn't tell their parents. Okay. So,
I know.
so that's pretty cool. But so I have those I've taught the kids, I've taught executive people, whichever that might be, and but I'm just doing the people that want to come to me, like it's I don't get upset if someone can't make it at the last minute and stuff like that. I used to argue about them, but I said, you know what? I don't know their life.
Right.
Something happened in their house or something, and they just can't attend this time. So I'm trying to be a big offer like that. Like, hey, come join the party. Because I know I'm having fun. So it's pretty good.
Good. So how do people get in touch with you?
Well, you can get online. I'm also a member for the last 3 years on the BBB. People here, Better Business Bureau.
Oh, the BBB.
Okay. There, and I work with them and other business people like that. And if you want to call me, I have a phone number in the book, and I could give you my phone number if you want that at any point.
If you want to give it out, we can put it up there at the end of the show.
Okay, it's like real simple: 337-302-1816. I do have a web. Okay,
337 what?
302
302
1816.
1816. Okay.
Yeah, and that's my direct cell phone. I'm usually in my office all the time, and you can go on the computer and look me up, Mike Papania, Lake Charles, Louisiana, Coaching for Success. I have the numbers there and everything.
Yeah, I have your email. I'll make sure that that's up on the end screen.
Oh, well, good.
And Papania Coaching for Success, I think.
It's just, I think I just say Coaching for Success.
Yeah.
So that's it.
But it's Papania at Coaching for Success.
Oh, suddenlymail.com. That's a long number. Yeah. It's Papania at suddenlinkmail.com.
That's it. That's it.
I've never changed it.
And you do have a website?
Yes, I do. There were a couple of people that did some. They talked good about me, especially Jack Jackson from Stoller Jewelry. He sent a thing to me. I can't remember exactly who they were. Some of them was like that.
Can you send me your website by email?
Yeah, I'll get that for you. That'd be
I'll make sure it gets included in the end.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, I'm gonna wrap it up. I just want to say thanks for being on the podcast today, Mike. We really enjoyed our conversation.
Okay.
Great talking to you.
Thank you. And have fun. Yeah. I'm not having fun. I'm telling you, have fun. Yeah.
Well, listen, we'll have to do it again sometime.
Okay.
Catch up with you and see how things are going.
Super good.
All right.
Thank you very much for this little opportunity to sit with you. It's been a pleasure.